Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Craig Kasper from NYHD and the Institute for Hearing and Balance, and we are back with another episode of Audiologists at Home Episodes. And basically, what that means is that, unfortunately, as audiologists, we are not able to work in our practice because of what's going on with the coronavirus. But what we wanted to do is bring some value through some of these videos, answering some common questions that we get in our clinic on a day-to-day basis. So what I'm going to do is bring back Dr. Zweig. You've seen her on previous episodes. Hey, Dr. Zweig, how are you?
Hey guys.
So this is becoming our routine now. Seems like every day we're sitting down asking questions of you and Dr. Naeem, which I think is really cool because it gives us an opportunity to talk and talk shop, but it also
Mhm.
gives us an opportunity to share some real good information with people out there.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I just wanted to say across the bottom, what you'll see is the scroll. If any of you guys have questions for us and you'd like us to answer them in upcoming episodes of the Audiologists at Home episodes, you could send your questions to info@newyorkhearingdoctors.com, info@newyorkhearingdoctors.com, and we will do our best to answer those questions. So, Dr. Zweig, the question today is something that we get oftentimes in our center. Patients are diagnosed with hearing loss, and they want to know what caused their hearing loss. So
Right.
when you get that question, what do you say?
All right. So there are probably a number of types of hearing loss that impact different structures of the ear. But for the purpose of this conversation, I am going to stick with the most common type of hearing loss, which is called sensory neural, and impacts probably about 90% of individuals. So sensory neural hearing loss, just to give you a slight background on what that is, it is hearing loss that impacts the inner ear and the structures in the inner ear, which are comprised of, from the hearing perspective, is the cochlea, snail shape with tens of thousands of embedded hair cells, and the vestibulocochlear nerve, which is also called the eighth cranial nerve. And hearing loss that is sensory neural, although we hear often, I get hearing loss as I get older, that is true, but there are some impacts or contributing factors that will cause hearing loss as we get older. So I'm just going to kind of dive into some of those factors.
Sure, go ahead.
So some causes of hearing loss as we get older, besides just living and being exposed to more in the environment, can be things like high blood pressure, which is impacting the smallest nerve in the body, which is that inner ear, due to the blood flow running through the inner ear. Things like diabetes, which research shows that individuals with diabetes are 1.5 times more likely to have some hearing loss than those that don't have diabetes.
Sure.
Um, there are over probably 200 medications that can contribute to some degree of hearing loss or sensory neural hearing loss. Medications like ibuprofen, high doses or high quantities of aspirin, chemotherapeutic medications, such as the platinum medications like cisplatin or ciboplatin, um, or I'm sorry, carboplatin,
Yeah.
uh, not ciboplatin. Things like loop diuretics can impact hearing loss. Any medication that ends in mycin, which is usually an antibiotic, those are medications that can impact the inner ear or those organs. We know that noise exposure over our life, which I can go into what's exposable noise, exposure to noise, exposure to noise that's acceptable. But I think that I want to make that another episode where we
Yeah,
talk
we
a little.
should definitely save that for its own episode, I think. That's
Yeah.
a really interesting topic.
hmm And then there's some viral infections, things like the mumps, meningitis, measles, things like that can cause sensory neural hearing loss.
And
Uh,
I guess we don't know at this point what the coronavirus will do from a hearing perspective,
that's
but
true. That's another virus.
uh,
We're not sure how it's going to impact the inner ear. With
one thing that we do know, though, I think, is that's starting to come out is certain drugs that they are suggesting might be helpful. Specifically, these anti-malaria drugs fall in line with some of the classes of drugs that you were talking about. They
Mhm.
might actually cause some hearing loss, so that's something we should definitely keep tabs on as we go forward.
Yeah, for sure. And some of these medications, we actually monitor patients to see the degree of hearing loss over time that it can impact, especially chemotherapy. When patients have high doses of chemotherapy, we do like to see them regularly every few weeks to few months to monitor how it is impacting their inner ear and their hearing.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's so many different potential causes of sensory neural hearing loss, and we'll probably get into other types of hearing loss as time goes on. But as
Mhm,
you said, that's the most common cause of hearing loss is damage to those little hair cells and then the nerve itself,
mhm,
aging, certain medications, certain types of illnesses, chronic illnesses that we might face, like high blood pressure, diabetes, high blood sugars, definitely impact us. Noise exposure,
mhm.
and now, as you're saying, certain viruses also can have an impact, not only on the long term, but also a sudden impact in some cases, which you see quite a bit when you see patients that see sudden onset sensory neural hearing losses.
Yes, quite a bit, yeah.
So
Sure. Mm.
I think that's really important information, especially for what we're dealing with now from a viral perspective, kind of taking
Mhm,
over our world, unfortunately. So
yeah,
all right. So again, just want to let you guys know we're trying to do these videos on a regular basis just to give you some insights into some really important questions that we face on a day-to-day basis. Myself, Dr. Zweig, and Dr. Naeem are available to answer any questions if you want to send them at info@newyorkhearingdoctors.com. And again, we said this in previous episodes. Unfortunately, we're not able to be in our office, but we are able to see our patients remotely through HIPAA compliant video conferencing and telephone. So if any of you guys have questions, you can always reach out to us and we will be happy to schedule an appointment. Anything else, Dr. Zweig?
no, I think that's all for today's episode.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys soon. Take
Bye,
care.
guys. Take care.